Capricorn, I say this with love. We've got some control issues. This is the Four of Gems, or the Four of Pentacles in this deck. This is the Dark Crystal deck. And the complex we're going to be looking at is control. I think that's a very Capricorn, Saturnian trait, and it's something that I've struggled with a lot with control issues, or things that seem like control issues that have deeper meanings in it. So let's start getting some cards and we'll get into it. As I'm a Capricorn moon and stellium. But I've got the archetype deck here, the Wild Unknown archetype, because I want to see what is it we're trying to control. And with this series of the Hero's Journey readings, of course the first tact I would take is looking at things from an internal lens, but I've just got this gnawing feeling that projections are really heavily involved, so this might be someone else's control issues over you. And that can look like a lot of things. Like, it can express itself in many ways. One of the things I deal with is hypervigilance, and that comes out as like me trying to control stuff in the environment to like prevent something bad from happening. And that was a rough one to sort out, because a lot of these things that actually belong in the symptom bucket end up in the personal character flaw bucket when they're involuntary. So it's an interesting distinction. Go with this one. The Ocean. And it was upside down. It's reversed. I mean, that's definitely giving me Pisces. So emotions. And that, I mean, that makes sense, you know, trying to control emotions rather than feel the emotions. Very Capricorn. Let's get one of these. This is the Oracle of the Radiant Sun. Just try and get a extra little hint here. Like, what about emotions? There we go. Manipulation. Ooh. Jupiter and Scorpio. And it came out reverse. Or, since this is like a horary astrology deck, you can look at that as retrograde. Huh. Controlling your emotions through manipulation, like not utilizing manipulation, but like while it's going on. Interesting. Start getting some tarot. But manipulation in reverse. Huh. Now we've got the Two of Gems, Two of Pentacles, so balance. And in the Rider-Waite, like that's somebody juggling two pentacles that are intertwined in the lemniscat, the infinity symbol. And I mean, they look like they're, you know, in control of it. But I get the sense that this is like a really delicate dance. Gonna need more information. Five of Shards. Five of Wands. Conflict. And active conflict, because both the Five of Swords and the Five of Wands show conflict, But the Five of Swords, the conflict has passed. It's like people, you know, break it up, like go your separate ways, whatnot. But the Five of Wands, it's like currently in progress. And the way, like the phrasing that I was using, that's kind of giving like bouncers, law enforcement, like this could be like a real conflict. Like a really serious one. So what's the deal with this conflict? Could very well have something to do with manipulation. And, I mean, the way this is kind of breaking out. Four of Pentacles, the Ocean. It's like trying to control your resources, your health, your emotions. Like, as this gets revealed? Because those looks like a pair of eyes. At least one eye. One eye blind. Is that a band? I think it's a band. The Fool. Ah, it's only two. I'm taking both. So we got the Fool in reverse and Strength in reverse. So a non-starter. And this could even be burnout. Like having to be strong for too long. I mean, if you're in active conflict, sure. So a non-starter. Maybe because of this conflict, and there's some sort of delicate balancing act. This isn't quite coming together just yet for me. I feel like the candle just got brighter. And so I'm trying to put this in like, or think of this in Saturnian terms. Because Saturn is the disciplinarian. This one so far has me a little stumped. Companionship in reverse. Moon in Libra. I mean, a non-starter with companionship that is that unreciprocated feelings, unrequited. And the Strength card and the Five of Shards. Someone involved in this conflict didn't think you were strong. Because that it could be like appearances are deceiving. Because the Four of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite, it's the guy that, you know, he's clamped around his pentacles. And he's like the mini emperor. I've even heard him called the trash emperor. So is that like a misconception? Like there's really a lot of depth and strength that wasn't anticipated, that can't be manipulated. I feel like I need more. And I don't quite understand the balancing act. Because if it's a non-starter, it seems like the balancing act is no longer a thing. It seems like it failed. You know, the fulcrum has collapsed. Is that 2? Yeah, 2. Idealism and flirtation and companionship in reverse. So idealism, we've got Pan here. And this is Sun in Aquarius. And flirtation is Venus in Sagittarius. He's playing a liar. That's standing out to me, and not like the instrument name, but a manipulator, a liar. Were you this perceived version of you, was it idealized? And it almost feels like flirting with danger. Like something happened. And something was a non-starter. I need more on that. What is this non-starter? But that flirting with danger is like, you were misread. You've got a lot more depth that wasn't seen maybe before a manipulator engaged in conflict with you. Because, you know, something I deal with in regards to complex PTSD is fawning. That was like the key for me realizing that that was more on the nose than just classic PTSD, even though like it's a little column A, it's a little column B. But the fawning, it can give this false impression because you're doing what you need to do to survive. Like, you might be very well a captive audience to someone, and it might be in your best interest to placate them rather than actually engaging in open conflict. But that creates a lot of internal pressure. Like trying to control the environment like that. And eventually, you blow up. So maybe someone didn't anticipate the, like, explosion from you, because maybe you're very composed most of the time, and composure does not necessarily equate calm. But we've got King of Stones, that's swords, in this deck. Is that 4? Yeah, 4 of Vials, 4 of Cups in the reverse. And so is it... I said King. It's Knight of Stones, so Knight of Swords. And 10 of Wands in reverse. So this is... In the upright, it's like the reckless hero. But in reverse, I feel like it's... That knight is pumping the brakes a little bit more. And then... I mean, we've got the never-ending burden. And you could take this as directly opposite of the upright meaning for the 4 of Vials. So instead of apathy, it's really engaged action. But that's the non-starter? Oh, maybe... Because the Knight of Swords going slower, like taking things easier, maybe contemplating before taking action, saw potential for a never-ending burden and blew their top or something. Like, I don't know. I don't quite have a grasp on what the context might be. But it's something like you saw something. And then that was like, hold up. Like, nope. And maybe it was like the straw that broke the camel's back of, okay, I've had it with this individual and now we're gonna have open conflict now. Not passive aggressive, bombastic side eye, you know. And that Four of Cups, that just could be putting everything on the table of, as in the Rider-Waite, it's 3 cups in the foreground and you've got somebody sitting beneath a tree with their arms crossed and then another cup like emerging from the clouds. Like that. I'm getting just like too good to be true vibes or something. Affair. Venus in Leo. In reverse. Gonna need more. Did you catch someone having an affair? Or, like, it doesn't need to be literal. Just doing something nefarious and shady. This flipped on nefarious, and it's drama. Mercury in Leo, that's drama. And Sun in Capricorn. Also both in reverse. You know what I'm getting from this? When somebody does something wrong, and you know it, they know it, we know it, everybody knows. But they'll do kind of like shady stuff, like gaslighty things, manipulation, to be like, oh, can you not tell everybody our business? You know, something like that. Like, flipping it back on you to, like, how dare you tell people the things I said and did, sort of deal. Because it makes them look terrible. Well, you know, it's... everybody's got their limit. And if somebody is manipulating you and engaging with conflict in you, and this delicate balance, that could have been subtle conflict. Like, that was the balance of not letting the conflict get too heated, but then it did. Because this weakness... maybe this weakness was the non-starter. Perceived weakness. And if you are dealing with complex PTSD, something of that ilk, you're gonna go through phases. Like, there's weird regressions and stuff when you are kind of operating as your past self, even though you're your adult self, like, while you go through that integration process of the wounds that have been open and salted for years. It's a weird process. And individuation, anything along those lines, like the great work, the 4 stages of alchemy, the confrontation with the shadow. From the outside, that is not going to make sense to someone who is not trying to understand. It might not make sense to someone who is trying to understand, but at least they're trying. But you saw something. Maybe something in the depths. That could be something hidden. I want to know more about the conflict, because this was the non-starter. So let's see more about the conflict. What's the deal with this conflict? Nope. 10 of gems in reverse. And 4 of shards. That's that's an interesting combination. Because 4 of wands, that's a very happy card. 10 of pentacles, I mean, in the reverse, that's like not being able to achieve your material happiness or your material goals. Whether that's finances, health, family. But then, oop, that was weird. That's a good catch. Now it's going in reverse. This just doesn't make sense. Like, no effort or anything that was put in over here on the 10 of Pentacles in reverse has yielded anything, but then there's going to be a leap to great happiness. And that could, of course, be the, like, rejection is redirection sort of thing. But there's like a disconnect. And that, just the physical behavior of that card, like, so jumpy. I don't know. 7 of Swords. Deception. What? I mean, that kind of makes sense for these two not making sense, to have deception in the middle. But that's the conflict? Unless, maybe if I read this right to left, what was promised was, like, ultimate happiness, you know, homecoming, whatnot. And this is the 1111 card, so the twin flame card. I'm more of a red thread of fate kind of girl. But, like, it's kind of reminding me of that Netflix documentary, of how just shifty that was. I'm gonna put this into English speaker order. But yeah, that documentary, Escaping Twin Flames, I think is what it was called. They were using spiritual concepts to grift. And I mean, I have my feelings on the whole, like, twin flame stuff. I think it, in the wrong hands, encourages limerence and is used in really predatory ways. But, I mean, to each their own, you know. As long as you're not doing stuff like what they were doing in that documentary, because they were, like, basically forcing people to transition so that they matched with their like twin flame gender. And by force, I mean like coercive control, like fear-based control, stuff like that. Like they weren't holding them down or anything, to my knowledge. But it's like if you don't abide by the rules of the group, we're gonna, ostracize you, exile you, and all that. Which, I mean, in that case, if they have a safe place to land, getting out of there is ideal, you know? But that takes a long time to undo. And I mean, anybody who's been abused in a cult, it would be surprising, very surprising for them not to come out with complex PTSD. Because that's and this is not medical advice. Talk to a therapist if you are thinking you have that, if you're struggling with that, so on and so forth. But you get that from inescapable situations, really oppressive situations. And these like cult leaders were in control of all of their resources. Because eventually, I think we're all living on the same property and we're turning over their paychecks, and like, it was really bad. So, and this, like, being idealized, and then, oh, yeah, that, like, those meeker versions of self being idealized, and then not realizing how strong you really were. That you couldn't be maybe manipulated anymore. And please, if you have experienced manipulation, do not get down on yourself about that. Just remember, you were manipulated by someone who was trying to manipulate you. Like, that they know the behaviors, they know how to talk, what to do. Just observe their behavior behind closed doors and in front of other people. Like, take note of the differences, and manipulation will reveal itself pretty fast. Like, people who have anger issues, so on and so forth. They ever lost it on you in front of anyone? I don't know. If they can't control their anger, quote unquote, but they only lose it on you behind closed doors, that sounds like they're pretty in control to me, actually. And I think they're full of it. And they don't want to be seen. There's a delicate balance in those conflicts. Restlessness. It's like the third time this come out. Aries, or Mercury in Aries. Really heated communication. Maybe you are in the process of getting out of this. Because this seems more settled in reverse. Like a lower flame. Like it'd be like a simmer versus a boil. Caution. Another Mercury card. Mercury in Virgo. And there's a lot of like little deer in that. Oh, and one little rabbit. Oh, there's a couple. And she's got a very worried expression on her face, and that hand isn't necessarily like a halt. It's got more of a tilt to it. Like a sad goodbye or something. And if you are escaping a cult, the goodbye might need to be quiet. Like, that's what I'm getting from that, from all the ears in that picture. It's like you're surrounded by... It's not necessarily anybody that wants to do you harm. Like whoever's giving you a hard time, you know, the conflict and whatnot. I'm not talking about them. But it's like, just to protect your safety, it's best to keep things to yourself, because like word travels once it's out, you know? And if whoever you're trying to escape gets wind of that before you can get through your escape plan, that can make things a lot harder for you. You know, I definitely learned the cost of not leaving a situation quietly when I was dealing with domestic violence. That was a hard lesson. But we've got status, Jupiter in Taurus, that's in reverse, and health, Sun in Virgo. And I think that flipped when I was talking about like leaving quietly. I mean, this is referring to like social status, but I'm getting like a Slack status, like Microsoft Teams status. Like when you go away for your health, you know, because dealing with an oppressive situation, that's not fun. It'll be quick, quiet. And with this conflict, if you've had like a flare in it, you know, in the middle, and suddenly it became active conflict, it might die down and then it might pick up, like depending on how long this takes to sort out. Now, what are the next steps? Because as you go through a situation that is difficult as this is coming across, you know, drama, conflict, maybe achievements aren't happening the way you want them to because you're so wrapped up in this one thing, you can't focus on other areas of your life. This might be where that complex starts to rear its ugly head, of you start trying to control things rather than going with the flow. And I understand the urge for that. When stress picks up, I do feel that need in myself, like, just want to be, I want to feel like I'm in the driver's seat, you know, in this rudderless situation, you know, or careening out of control down the old-timey, what was it, in like the mine shafts and stuff, where they go down in a cart. You are on that ride. However that ride goes, you go with it, for better or for worse. And that urge to control, you might be trying to prevent something like that from happening, like the minecart ride. We've got King of Shards, King of Wands in reverse. So normally creative, nurturing, in touch with that creative flame. Stress impacts creativity. Oh, and there's two little mystics there. So taken in a distorted lens, that might be how the person you're in conflict with sees you and potentially others involved in this. Like, you're so much smaller than them and they're so much bigger than you. When in reality, like, the crystal is what had all the power, and that shard is about the same size as the little mystics. So the power, it's like the power within, not how big you are. And or the Skeksis after, the little guys. They were like the main characters. I can't remember what they were called. They were like the smallest characters, and they were after them for their energy. Stay youthful. Let's get another. What else about this King of Shards? Knight of Vials. Knight of Cups. A love offer? Oh, that feels like a Hoover. Like in the abuse cycle behaviors. Hoovering is one of the steps. Like, trying to get you back after you leave, or trying to prevent you from leaving with false promises and whatnot. But that might be an expectation of, something that you would fall for, potentially because of your past history, Because I feel like this is someone that, at a minimum, knows you kinda well. It's someone enough to, like, idealize a version of you. So even if you don't know each other terribly well, maybe it's for a while. Think of the twin flame example. The way that couple running it was, like, presenting themselves. It's just like, buddy, buddy, we're all here, we're friends and this and that, when really they were grifting. Which I don't think they've admitted, to my knowledge. Like, I remember looking up some news articles and stuff after watching the documentary. But definitely the type of people to double down on what they did. Even though, I think there were criminal charges. The World. Yeah, an end of a cycle. Another Capricorn card. So it seems like it's coming to an end. Maybe you have to see through the nonsense, like whatever this Knight of Cups is, some false offer, and if someone's in real trouble, I'd be mindful of like fake apologies and stuff like that. I've seen an unfortunate amount of people go through formal processes and whatnot, and do the needful just to get through it, not to actually change the behavior or anything like that. It's just check those boxes, make sure the perception is good, and then as soon as nobody is looking, I will be back to my manipulative self. Not that that ever changed, but they get to drop the mask. Isolation. Another Virgo card. Saturn in Virgo. And in reverse. And this is giving me drama, too. Maybe it's because it came out in reverse, but this seems like very melodramatic. But maybe check out your 6th house placements, or even your South Node placements, because the South Node is in Virgo right now, and like clearing out or examining that shadow material from the South Node that's very, what word am I looking for? Saturnian? You know, that disciplinarian of, I will find any improvements, any and all loose screws in myself that need to be tightened. Oh, what is this isolation about? I'm kind of getting that what was not seen is now seen. Yeah. Independence. Moon in Aquarius. And this looks like Osset, Isis. The goddess Isis, for my FBI agent listening. But Independence and Stonehenge. And a very sad moon. So there's some sort of... This might be codependence, is as to what was driving this. Like, with those codependent wounds, having that unconscious driver, essentially, that could be steering someone to pick unhealthy partners, like the unconscious patterning. And codependency was a word that I really struggled to like develop a relationship to because of the hyper independence that I experience. I'm like, how can I be hyper independent and codependent at the same time and whatnot? And it's kind of that example I was giving of me trying to control the environment to prevent bad things from happening. It's that sort of deal. And there's the familiarity too to compete with. And those codependent behaviors can come from neglectful caregivers, you know, being taught from an early age that love is something that you have to earn. Attention is something you only get when you achieve things. And that could really mess you up for a long time. So if you are struggling, of course, like I said, reach out to a therapist, support group, and whatnot. And there are, I think there's like Codependent Anonymous groups. I've never attended that flavor of support group, but it could be helpful. There's a book, can't remember the author's name, but it's Codependent No More. It's a good one. There's a female. Melody something. We've got practicality, moon in Capricorn, and bluff, Jupiter in Gemini. So impractical. And that's like a bluff that didn't work. This is giving me like at the end of a relationship when someone is like, if you don't stay, I'm gonna harm myself. Of course, again, reach out to the appropriate people for assistance with that. But it's giving that kind of like manipulative, you know, anything to save face at this point. Like it's just a denial that things are going the way they're going. And I got so into the complex about control, I completely forgot to talk about like that this is the hero's journey, the refusal of the call. So that codependency that's giving me like someone manipulating to stop you from progressing on the journey, from answering the call. And interesting that it took me so long for that to click. That's kind of giving me more control vibes too, though, because what gaslighting does to you, how it messes with your mind, any of those like coercive control like tactics and things like that, you forget stuff. I mean, that like I set up to do a hero's journey reading, like that's the series that I'm in, and trauma absolutely like carves out chunks of your memory, but it's like the analogy that I've used is that of a rotating door. Some days the door is operating normally. Some days it's spinning way too fast. And other days like it's just shattered into pieces. Like I don't always have access to those memories, but they're not necessarily like gone. But moving forward, maybe what's an archetype that can help us with however control issues manifest as we move through this refusal of the call. Because that, like what I was saying at the beginning, that I'm getting this vibe of projections from other people and whatnot, that for whatever reason, someone might want to stop you from your call. And the box is what came out. I'm not going to take all of those. Sword is under it. Take this as well. But the box and the sword, this is like you breaking out of your confines, maybe to go on the hero's journey, to answer the call. And you see the truth of it. The truth of this conflict, of the drama, of the weird, stupid games, and codependency is a lot. That is a lot to deal with. And just the point in my life when things started to make sense and I was, going through therapy and whatnot, I was going through that alone. I don't know what that looks like in a romantic relationship, how that affects it, but in addition to individual therapy, some couples therapy might be in order as well. because that's like trying to navigate an addiction. You know, it's like it's hardwired into, not hardwired, but conditioned into your brain just because of your circumstances, you know? And the how it came to be, like, that's important, I think, for you to know, but that doesn't necessarily, not in all cases, but that doesn't necessarily change, like, the therapeutic approach, like the origins of it. We'll get a song here, and we'll get you on your way. Or an activity, whichever comes out. 2 songs. Fearless, President, and song 2, Blur. These guys are pretty new. Blur is a little more old school. But I think they just put out their first EP. It's got like 6 songs on it. The guy wears a, seems like a Reagan or a Nixon mask or something. But I really like it. A lot of good songs from President. And Blur, like, it's not quite coming to mind right now. I'm having a hard time thinking of it. And I know it's like an earworm song. Like, we've all heard it a bunch of times, but I remember being surprised at the title, like, Song 2? Really? Maybe there's something in the lyrics, you know? And just a good reminder to take a break. You know, if you feel that anxiety, that need to control things, you know, take pause and just ask yourself why. Just non-judgmentally, you know, in an open way. Why do I feel the need to control? Am I experiencing fear? Is it some sort of material concern that's creating a fear in me? Is it a conflict that's making me anxious, that's hitting some chord, some string to something in my past that's dredging up old behavioral patterns that, like, when they come up, you kind of, like, get down on yourself at first. Like, I thought I worked through this, but when somebody pours salt into it, it's gonna hurt, you know, and no shame for that. But overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates, and if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.